Point of View is brought to you in association with Stanbic Bank, moving forward.
Good evening. This is The Point of View. We're live on City TV. It's Monday night and we're going to bring you a great show tonight. Point of View gets the right guests. We ask them relevant questions and you always learn something new by way of insights. And it's live and interactive. We are live on Facebook at City TV GH and our hashtag is Point of View. It's interactive, so get in touch with us. We'll put a number on the screen while the discussion goes on. We want to hear from you, particularly stakeholders in the educational sector. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a school owner, or just a concerned Ghanaian. So we're in the era of new things. So there's a new university bill being considered. There's also a new curriculum for KG to primary 6. And of course, there's a new school uniform to go with all of that. When we come back, I'll introduce my guests who are going to dissect the history of this and discuss the pros and cons of our new approach to teaching our kids to be ready for the future. Stay with us. So government has announced at a press conference led by the Ghana Education Service a new standard-based curriculum for KG to primary 6. According to this curriculum, our children will be more creative and ready for the world that they face in the 21st century and beyond. To dissect this, we have from the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, my friend Kofi Asare is the chairman. Kofi, great to have you. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Bernard.
Always good to have you on the show.
Yeah, pleasure.
We're also privileged to have the incoming Executive Secretary of the very interestingly titled National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, Dr. Prince Amadok. Great to have you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Fantastic. So we want to know from you teachers what you make of the new curriculum. Have you seen it? What about parents? Is this what we've been praying for? What about you, the other stakeholders in education, private school owners and all the other people? What do you make of this curriculum? Let's start by showing you a quick summary of what the DG of GES said last week when he announced the new curriculum.
As part of the several reforms that are going on in education, another area that we have found a need to also reform is the school uniforms for junior high schools. And the minister, through consultations, presented a memo to cabinet, which was duly accepted for us to change the junior high school uniform from next academic year. The idea is for them to start seeing themselves as secondary school students. They are in lower secondary school. In fact, when you go to other countries, when you finish primary school, you exit straight into secondary school. So the junior secondary or the lower secondary is part of the higher secondary. In our case, our structure is said that they are part of the primary school. So they tend to see themselves as primary school students. But the idea is to psychologically let them see themselves as secondary school. And this is also dovetailed into the new reforms that is coming in terms of their content, the content of their curriculum, which will be upgraded such that it will come to standards with the normal secondary school system.
So that was the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. This was actually a clip where he was speaking about the new uniform, and we'll talk about that later on. But let's start with the curriculum, and let me come to Dr. Ama. So you are the Executive Secretary incoming for this. For how long has this process been on, the idea to reform our curriculum? Give us some history.
Well, thanks very much and good evening to your cherished listeners.
Good evening.
First, the curriculum will always have to be reviewed at least every 5 years, according to international benchmarks. But for some reason, we haven't been able to do that, over the last decade.
Wow.
Now, what happened was that in 2017, a committee, a 14-member committee, chaired by Professor Osei Kwarteng of the University of Cape Coast, to review our curriculum and make recommendations, review the situation, the contextual situation we find ourselves in as far as our instructional approaches in the schools and also learning outcomes are concerned, and then advise what should be done. And you know that in most cases, anytime a curriculum is reviewed, a committee is set up to do that, to provide some form of advice and recommendation. So you recall the Anamwa Mensah Committee report that resulted in the creation or the design and development of the 2007 curriculum. So this one also brought some recommendation and recommended that we have to comprehensively review our curriculum. In the process of the meetings of the council, the committee, concept papers were accepted. At that time, I went to submit a paper on standard-based curriculum, and then Professor Magnus Wilmot of University of Cape Coast, who's the College of Education head there, also submitted a paper. Now, so in the process, the committee came to a conclusion that given the limitation of the objectivist-based curriculum, and when we say objectivist-based curriculum, we're saying that a curriculum that is anchored on a certain theoretical underpinning. And what is that? That children learn based on a repetitive practice. So you drill them, and you drill them, and you drill them, and the assumption is that they will begin, knowledge will be acquired, and the purpose of is to find out what they can do at the end of, what behavior they can show. So once the behavior is demonstrated, so for example, you can be able to count 1 up to 20, and once you count 1 up to 20, it means that you're educated.
So that's what you call the objectives based.
Yes, exactly. So it's much more on product,
and
it is anchored on a concept of behaviorism. Theories of Thorndike. I don't want to go in there, but it's more of behavior management, stimulus response. Give the child something to do, and then based on what you have provided, they would respond positively the way you want. Now, over the last 3 decades plus, there has been, that theories continues to evolve. So there has been changes in how we should conceptualize learning in the first place. And the assumption now is that learners are not people that somebody sits somewhere and slap a behavior in their minds. They come onto the world with their own, some sense of knowledge. And then based on interactions with the environment, experiences are formed, and based on the experiences, they can now construct new information, construct new knowledge based on information. So that is what then, so based on these discussions, the recommendation was, okay, now we need to go to the standard-based curriculum, because, of course, what it does is that it provides us with opportunity to set at least benchmark and to be able to tell and track how our people are doing as far as specific learning areas are concerned.
That's what you call the standards-based.
Exactly, because it's based on standards.
Global standards.
The standards are set based on, one, the contextual issues. So, for example, as a country, we look at our context. If children are exposed to numbers at a very early age, then we should know that maybe at KG2, before the child goes to school, probably they can be able to count 1 to 3. So, if they are in our context, if they are counting up to 20, probably it's better than, say, in Canada, where a child, start counting maybe at the early age before they go to school. So it's standard, but it's contextual as well. But the most important thing is that to be able to establish what particular knowledge, attitude, values, and skills that a child should be able to demonstrate within that. But you benchmark them with what is happening elsewhere. Prior to this, we have done a similar standard-based curriculum under a USAID project called Partnership for Learning, and where numeracy and literacy project has been piloted, and we're privileged to be part of the team. So transferred the knowledge that and then the evidence that were obtained in the process of the piloting, to see how it fits into this. So the curriculum, went through the process of now setting up panels, and then having the panels, meeting at subject level, and then developing, the curriculum, looking at different standards across the world. So you look at maybe South Africa. So in terms of numeracy, what is in terms of, for example, counting at P2 or at KG1, to what extent can they count to? Maybe is it 20 or is it 30? In Canada, to what extent can they count to? In our context, if we're giving our children time to count, to what extent can they count? And so we put them together.
So was this based on the fact that when you did those tests, those global tests of, for example, primary 3, how well can students read and do basic arithmetic, our students were not performing well? Was that one of the reasons why we decided to change from objectives to standards based?
Yeah, they were all part of it, because you needed to get a set of data that we can always rely on and track our students. And the objectives base wasn't giving us the data, because there is no benchmark, and it's difficult to set benchmark as well. But clearly, both local research and international research demonstrated that we're not doing well. At the early grade level, at grade 2, primary 2, there's an assessment called early grade reading assessment and early grade mathematics assessment, and short form called EGRA-EGMA. And the result shows that less than 2% can read with comprehension.
Less than 2%?
Yes.
For which year?
At primary 2.
I mean, when was this study done?
No, this is done in 2017. But it's done
2017.
Yeah.
Less than 2% of our
and it's been
primary 2 pupils.
Yeah, it's been consistent.
Could read and understand.
Yes,
public
exactly,
basic schools.
Public basic schools. Now beyond that,
amazing.
And,
less than 2%.
Yes, and beyond that,
Wow.
beyond that, at the primary 4 and primary 6, we have an assessment called the National Education Assessment, NEA. It measures people's proficiency in mathematics and then in English. Again, less than 20% can reach their proficiency level. And by proficiency level, we mean that the child was able to score 55% out of the total score, and we had less than 20%. And clearly, in all this, the evidence is that is a foundation that is very weak, and lack of data for us to track how our young people are doing, so that we can remediate or provide intervention to ensure that whatever limitation or knowledge gap is there or are created are plugged. And so the standard-based curriculum has that distinctive feature that gives us the opportunity to begin to track performance. Right from the classroom level, we can get the data at classroom level and aggregate it to the school level, aggregate it to the district level, and bring it at the national level. And then at some point we can say that in this district, even though our benchmark is that a child should be able to say count in twos, and maybe counting twos between 1 to 20. We have 10, 15% or 20% of our children cannot do that particular.
Okay, so that's a nice long introduction. Beautiful. Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, you are the coalition of CSOs in education.
Exactly.
In terms of the things we have to do to improve our education, is this the time for this, or are there other things that should have been put in place first?
I think the curriculum review was long overdue.
Okay.
The 2006 education reform, in the wisdom of the then government, put together the NACA under the Education Act of 2008, Act 778. And NACA was established to do the developed curriculum, review it, and then also standards and all that. Previously, it was done by GES, so more or less.
So what was the last time the curriculum was reviewed? Before 2017?
In 2007.
2007?
Exactly.
So we had 12 years.
Exactly.
Without a review.
Exactly. So obviously, it was long overdue. And then, the world is moving at a very fast pace. And if you have adequate engagement or interaction with education at the private school level, okay, you will appreciate the fact that the world is moving at a very, very fast and dynamic pace, and that those who have access to private education at the basic level or even at the preschool level are way ahead of those at the public basic schools in terms
But
of...
aren't the private schools using the same curriculum?
No.
What are they using?
No. There are various types of curriculum we use. I mean, there are various kinds of curriculum. You are not restricted to use the GES, Ghana government curriculum.
But most private schools use the GES curriculum.
At the basic level,
yes.
Most of them.
Because if less than 2% of your primary 2 pupils can read and understand or pass the EGMA, obviously there's more to their deficiency than simply the curriculum.
That is public basic schools.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm saying if less than, it means almost all the students who go through the system don't know anything.
No.
So it can't just be the curriculum.
No.
It has to be teacher-student ratio.
No, it has
to be classroom.
If I say the curriculum, the curriculum review is a process that encompasses not only a review of the content.
Yes.
That is very probably a minute. I mean, what is significant about review of the content? It's probably because now you are emphasizing more on literacy and more on critical thinking, okay?
Yes.
So some elements that were probably missing, like critical thinking. But it is not just about the content review. It is about the review of the pedagogy also.
Teaching up philosophy.
Exactly, yes, because all he was talking about had to do with reviewing the teaching methods, okay, and reviewing how children are assessed. So if you want to move from
the content, the teaching, the assessment,
exactly,
all together.
Exactly. So you want to move from the traditional, what we call chalk talk teacher-centered approach to teaching, where teachers virtually lecture, to
chalk talk
teacher-centered approach to teaching, where teachers virtually lecture, to a more learner-based participatory approach to teaching, which that's what we are discussing. That's why you are saying that we now have tables that are around, the children sitting around them.
In groups.
In groups, so that they can...
Not all of them facing the teacher.
No. So that, you create a playing environment or a participatory environment where children can demonstrate and participate without being timid. And then, so it is a whole paradigm shift. It is not just the content.
Can I look at that?
Exactly.
I see. So from chalk talk to what?
Learner-based,
I see. I want them to see.
Participatory system.
I see. So the tables are around.
Exactly, they are around. Is this an example about the environment? The environment that is being created to facilitate the participation of the children. Children learn by playing. Participation of the children to build their confidence, and then teachers talk less, and then the kids.
So the content changes, the teaching approach changes, the assessment changes, but the classroom doesn't change. The infrastructure, because there are some people who think that it's great to do all of these things, but the most important thing to do is fix the basic school, remove the schools under trees, make sure they have proper classrooms, make sure they have chalk, make sure the teachers are available. What would you say to people who say that yes, it's good to do curriculum and everything, but there are some basics you need first?
We are saying that.
You are saying that?
We are saying
I haven't heard you say it yet.
We issued a statement in relation to the revised curriculum.
Okay.
While commending the efforts and the vision to have it revised, we underscored the need to ensure that, one, class sizes are reduced. Because immediately you start talking about child-centered teaching methods. Then you are talking about class sizes not more than 40. Because realistically, a teacher cannot facilitate a discussion in a classroom and then ensure that the children participate in the process when you have more than 40 children in the class.
Okay.
That is not that is to emphasize the fact that our teacher norms in Ghana at the junior high school and primary level is, I think, 25 and 35 respectively. And so if I say 35 is a maximum, okay, but we know that there are very, very large class sizes, even in Accra here. Go to Presec Primary, even in urban areas, and then it's even worse in rural areas, especially in the northern region. And so it is imperative that...
So we need to do with class size. What else?
Class sizes must reduce. Apart from that, teacher availability. We are introducing French at the upper primary level. Okay? It means that we need to make an effort to depart from the past. What is the issue of French instruction in Ghana? Very few schools have the luxury of French teachers, especially rural schools. They don't have them. They have French teachers. So you find that in the past decades, only peri-urban and urban schools mainly had the luxury of teaching French. So during BC, very few students write French. Okay, now if we are bringing it to upper primary level, it means that we appreciate that if the child begins learning French at class 4, it will enhance their proficiency.
So make teachers available
to, especially in underserved schools, in rural areas, so that the inequality is not deepened.
I'm still trying to understand what else is needed. So reduce the class size, make sure there are teachers available. What else do you need to do?
The learning environment. You mentioned schools under trees. And so, as much as possible, create a conducive learning environment that children will be happy to participate in and play in.
But you know what's funny? So from the document you showed me the old classroom with the normal desk,
the dual desk,
where you are facing the class. Now you are saying you need round desks so the students face each other. Even with the old desk, we don't have enough. So someone would have thought you probably would make these facilities available at the same time as you're introducing the curriculum, so that your teaching, your assessment, and your content moves with your infrastructure. But I'm sure, in fact, even there are classrooms now without desks, not to talk of the round one. Aren't you putting the cart before the horse?
Not exactly. I think that what we need to understand is that education is a system. That's what we call it. Education system comes with different parts, and there are several reforms ongoing. You know, for example, you know that there's a GET fund loan, what we call the securitization of GET fund, 1.5 billion, with 500 million or so being going to be invested in basic education, including infrastructure. So that's just one side. You know, so the curriculum reform.
GET fund contractors say they haven't been paid. Some of them even came to CTFM that if they are not paid, they'll lock the classrooms. They do
so
I'm
the reforms, so the reforms, comes with several other interventions from other sectors as well. You know, within the education sector itself, to be able to make it complementary. It is quite difficult to say that in terms of reform, it has to take a linear progression. You know, like the A has to happen before B. They are not mutually exclusive. You can do several other things at the same time. So let me give you an example. So while this reform is ongoing, before we started this, we had to think about the teachers who are going to teach. So you have to look at the way the teachers have been trained or are being trained. And therefore, what do? You have to review the teacher education curriculum. So you change the teacher's curriculum. So last year, they started standard-based curriculum. So they themselves who are going to get into the classroom will understand what standard-based is and be able to deliver a standard-based curriculum.
So your teachers are aware of this new teaching approach.
So the teachers who are being trained at the colleges of education, they are now doing 4-year degree program, B.Ed, and now specializing in how to teach standard-based.
What about the already existing teachers?
I'm getting there. And then also, you are certainly going to have, already existing teachers who have to undergo some training. So you do in-service training. And now, even in-service training in 1 week or even a month or 2 months will not be adequate for the teacher to comprehensively, teach this curriculum or have an orientation, a complete reorientation of how the teaching approach should go. And therefore, what you need is to set up a system, a mechanism that will provide opportunity for continuous professional development.
Have you done that?
And which is part of the package of training the teachers, which we call professional learning communities.
So all of these the average teacher in the basic public school, if I called one of them and asked them what is standard-based teaching approach, what is participatory learning, they will understand that.
No, I'm saying that all of these are part of the rollout process. So, for example,
so it will be done.
Exactly. So, for example, next month, first week of May, we begin the national training, and then it will be cascaded up to the school level.
Okay.
But as I said, if we were to do training for a week or two, that is not adequate to prepare the teacher enough to teach this forever. So that's where you set up the learning hubs so that we can continuously see themselves as a community of practice and people of similar profession, and also sharing knowledge, within the context of improving learning outcome. So as you can see, this is a resource pack that contains
very powerful book.
That contains several resources for teachers. But let me also add that even when you have teachers, you have trained your teachers, and the teachers understand standard-based curriculum. If you do not have a proper and a robust accountability system, it will be very difficult to ensure that the children have opportunity to learn. So what do? You've got to deal with the accountability framework that you have in the school system. And that's why there are reforms ongoing at the National Inspectorate Board, which is also another creature of the Act 778 of 2008. So we're looking at reforming the curriculum, but you cannot reform the curriculum in vacuum. It's a system, and the system must respond to even the architecture that delivers the curriculum, which include maybe, for example, Ghana Education Service. So you have to look at reforms of the Ghana Education Service. You are talking about teachers, teacher ratio, 35 on the average, but in some classes there are 70 people in a class. And so you have to do rationalization. Take some teachers from... So
it's a process, it's a system.
It's a
Beautiful.
system,
this is the point of view. We're trying to understand why we are changing our curriculum, what the curriculum says. When we come back, we'll look at some subject areas in the curriculum. Some also feel this government is changing too many things. There's a new universities bill they are putting up, new curriculum, new school uniform, new everything. Why? We'll try and ask my guests when we come back. Stay with us.
The season of Easter represents sacrifice, rebirth, and compassion. Easter presents the opportunity for us to exhibit genuine love and affection, a chance to extend a helping hand to the people around us, and to make life a little more bearable for a fellow human being. Why don't we give meaning to the season this Easter? Join the Easter Orphan Project on Easter Monday, 22nd April 2019, as we medically screen and spend time with over 500 orphans in Mama Ladi Orphanage in Bolgatanga, the Baptist School Complex Orphanage in Choto, near Suhum, and the Hand Evangelism Orphanage in Hacho. Support us in cash and in kind with bags of rice, gari, beans, maize, sugar, milk, biscuits, drinks, detergent, toiletries, disinfectants, and so on, to the front desk of City FM and City TV behind the Arabaka police station.
And send your cash donations to the mobile money number 0550 900 006.
Call 0302 224 959 for further information. This Easter, let's make some sacrifices. Let's be compassionate. Let's open up our hearts, and let's make an orphan feel loved.
Take it all away. Give it some kind of meaning.
People who bleach have a nauseating smell. You just try to get near them, you find out that they smell.
Skin bleaching, skin lightening, or toning is gradually becoming a norm in Ghana, and not even the obvious harmful effects is a deterrent.
Sometimes if you are injecting and you don't do it well, you see blood all over the place. So to avoid all that, for the medicine to go through easily, through your veins easily, it's better you get someone to help you inject in your body.
Skinned Alive, a City TV documentary, premieres on 16th of April at 6 p.m. only on City TV.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Let me read some of your quick comments. We are trying to understand why we need a new curriculum, how it would make our students do better, or pupils for that matter, and why we need other new things. Bernard, the fact is that there is absolutely nothing new about this curriculum, which would be implemented in 2019-2020. It's just the pedagogical technologies which have undergone some reshuffle. They should provide teachers the necessary materials and see brilliant results. This is Maxwell in Suhum. Kofi Seidu says it's misplaced priority for government to spend a whopping amount of $350 million for new school uniforms when the schools across the country lack teaching and learning materials. Some of these children even lie on the bare floor to receive tuition for lack of uniform. Walanyo Inakwetia says, Ghana Education Service is at it again. Without surprising parents by reducing the subject studied. This is the best decision ever. But they should also focus on providing furniture, textbooks, ICT centers, infrastructure, and above all, teacher motivation than changing school uniform at whose expense. The school uniform looks depressing, just like the previous ones. I think the one who designs it should look at the effect of colors on individuals. There's a lot more comments coming out. Who did you consult in the curriculum process? You mentioned there was a committee. Was the curriculum discussed with the NAT, the NAGRAT, the GINEC, and all these people, parents and stuff?
There's a huge group of people, huge number of people that were consulted. I was just trying to see if I can go through and mention, but very huge. You have teacher unions, you have the religious bodies, you have other NGOs, you have some parliament.
Were you consulted?
Yeah. In fact, on the question of consultation, let me say that even the design of the council itself, is inclusive. You have about 22 members coming from the Ghana Federation for the Disabled, from the missions, from the both faiths, and then you have from industry. I mean, from various stakeholder groups.
How long was the consultation for?
We serve on the Ministry Advisory Board. So at that level, we participated in the policy discussions related to the curriculum.
So you own what is in the curriculum?
No. And then at the regional level, there were regional fora held to elicit inputs from stakeholders. We took part in them.
Okay.
And then at the national level, when the draft was ready, at the national level, there was another national stakeholder forum held at the Nat Bediako Hall, which we also participated. So there were various avenues for stakeholders to participate in the process of developing the curriculum. Apart from that, we also issued a position paper to NACA, focusing on content issues and most importantly, the implementation arrangements.
So I'm seeing consultations in 2018, January, March, April, May, all the way, and I'm looking at officials, principals of colleges, queen mothers. So you met different people and they made inputs into the curriculum. Brilliant. Into specific subject areas. All right. How would, for example, mathematics, teaching of mathematics change? One of the biggest issues in Ghana, how mathematics is taught. Give me a quick idea of how this standards-based curriculum approaches teaching mathematics at the basic level compared to the old curriculum.
I have been a student of mathematics. I've been very saddened by the way I was taught mathematics. And when I had the opportunity to live outside the country and study mathematics further and had the opportunity to teach mathematics, I experienced mathematics differently. And my research work has been in investigation and problem solving in mathematics. The point is that the mathematics has been taught as if that it's a procedural, it is algorithmic, it is computational. There's only one answer.
It is procedural, algorithmic,
and
computational.
It's more about getting the right answer. So when you work, there's a certain answer somewhere that you work towards that, and that you can never have any answer apart from that. If I ask you 1 + 1 right now, you say it is 2. You can't change it. Everywhere you go, 1 + 1 is 2. But 1 + 1 is 2 contextually. 1 + 1 is 2 under the base 10 system. But when you talk about base 2 or Boolean algebra, 1 + 1 means something different. So the approach that this curriculum takes is within the context of problem solving and investigation, allowing children to learn mathematics in more experiential way, and they're being investigative and applying mathematics to everyday context. If you ask anybody right now, he says, I wasn't good in mathematics. The person is a carpenter. He says, I was very poor in mathematics. I wasn't good. But meanwhile, this person can do measurements. This person does a lot of trigonometry in the work that they do, because we have made the subject so immutable, so far and so esoteric, so far away, that.
So how does this curriculum address that?
So what this curriculum does is to make it more experiential. If you're talking about, and more often connecting, the empirical world more with the real number system. So if you're talking about, say, addition, of numbers, say up to 20, you have to engage them more on using tangible stuff, things that they can hold, objects that they can hold. If you are teaching them concept of weight or heaviness, if they hold a bottle, hold it in their hand and then hold another, say which one is more heavier. So we are developing the concept of.
They don't have to imagine.
So, yes, you don't have to imagine.
It's not abstract. It's
exactly.
practical.
If right now, as you stand here, if I want to find out how tall, whether you are taller than Kofi, I can do that with my eyes. Is that not it? By observation. The other way, I can also pick a ruler, measure Kofi, and use the numerical values I get and say that because this number is greater than that number, you are taller than that. So there are several ways of teaching mathematics. The more observational manner, the ones that the children can relate more, and the one that children can love mathematics, is what has been emphasized. And this curriculum says that we want to make Ghana a mathematics-friendly country. We want to make mathematics because it's the foundational building block for all other subjects. If you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a scientist, whatever you want to do, you need to have mathematics as a basis. So the curriculum is emphasized numeracy.
I see.
And then also.
So what target are you setting for yourself after implementing this for a few years for your EGRA and your EGMA? Since you got less than 2% using the old curriculum, what kind of benchmark are you setting?
I can honestly, the assessment framework and the national benchmark has not been concluded yet.
Okay.
But there will be a national benchmark. Just as we have shared our curriculum online, we will share our national benchmark once ready online, so that if we're a parent, you can then hold teachers accountable. That my child is in primary 2, and the benchmark is that he should be able to do A, B, C, D, and my child is not doing it. So that everybody can quality assure what is happening even in the classroom. So we will set that, but that is not ready
What
yet.
role do you have to play in this process as stakeholders?
Stakeholders need to, most importantly, constantly remind government that all these beautiful reforms cannot sit properly if the framework is unavailable. Now, this system is built on an accountable system, okay? Then there is a lack of accountability in our system because the system is overly centralized. You go to a school, the headmaster, the teachers are not accountable to the headmaster. The headmaster is not accountable to the secretary supervisor. There is no accountability because there are no performance benchmarks. There are no KPIs for teachers. There are no KPIs for the headmaster. The secretary supervisor is not accountable. And so because the system is overly centralized and the people at the district level have no authority and for that matter no responsibility, you are unable to hold them to account. And so all these reforms succeeding depends on the extent to which we as a nation are able to devolve the management of education from the center to the periphery. The fact is that this document is going to be available for a teacher in the classroom in Tintimshe. A certain secretary supervisor is the only person who will have more visits to the school than any other person. Because the NIB will consider inspection partners and all that. But the most regular visitor to the school who visits to provide the immediate external inspectorate function is the secretary supervisor. Now, this gentleman or this man is supposed to inspect between 10 and 15 schools in the circuit and visit them at least once in a month. First question, is that once in a month visit adequate to monitor the level of compliance to this curriculum, to monitor and report about compliance to pedagogic prescriptions in this document? You understand? 2, is this person trained enough? Has that person got the capacity to appreciate what to look out for and document and feedback to the district education office? You understand? And so you realize that supervision is key to ensuring that this thing works. And for that supervision to work, that you must have a system that devolves responsibility and authority from the center to the district so that you can hold them responsible. If you don't give someone the responsibility over education management, how can you hold them accountable?
Okay.
But as we speak now, we know that the directors are merely implementers of decisions taken at the center. And so there are ongoing reforms of the education system. We know that there's a law that's supposed to go to Parliament this year to advance or pursue the devolution of education. But it is imperative for government to realize that in as much as reviewing the curriculum is important, creating an accountable education system is important. Without the superstructure, without a properly devolved system, there can be no sustained accountability in the education system. And so government should equally prioritize the devolution of education management.
Now, there's a big controversial issue on Facebook. A lot of people have been sending me this. In fact, when I put out my information that I was going to do this interview, I think a lot of people asked me to ask you this question. So please put up this excerpt on JB Dankwa. It's everywhere. Bernard, this is a question for your guest. I'm interested in why there's nothing extensive about Kwame Nkrumah in the curriculum. He only comes up when the Big Six is being identified. However, there is extensive work on JB Dankwa, which includes a possible field trip to his hometown. Kisley Hayford is also given good coverage, with possible trip to Casford in UCC. Is it the case of making history favor JB Dankwa because a party that believes in an ideology is governing Ghana today? Dr. Prince Amma, this question, I'm sure you were expecting it, so your applause has dropped. What's your answer? Why are you, and please show the excerpt from that history. So this is from the history part, the history curriculum. I don't know, I think this is...
Stay there.
Yeah, let this be there. So can you speak to this, please?
So you see that the curriculum is made up of content standard, indicators, exemplars, okay? And then you have the essential skills on our right, extreme right. Now, the specific indicator for this is that the children or learners should examine sources of evidence about the role of Dr. JB Dankwa in the Gold Coast Youth Conference. The question is, I am not an historian, but I know that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did not feature around this time.
Which time?
Around 1945. You see, history is periodical and chronological. You cannot, why are we not even talking about Jerry Rawlings? Why are we not talking about J. Kufuor?
But there's no year here.
It says that the content standard there says show understanding of the factors that led to the formation of early protest movement in Ghana before 1945. Where was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah at the time?
He was
history is periodical, it's based on a certain period, and it's chronological, arranged in a certain order. So we'll get to a point, this is primary 6, you're going to get to a point where JB Dankwa will be conspicuously missing out of the program or the curriculum. Why? Because we are in independence, we have self-government, we have Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we have accelerated development.
So we are
we are now going. And then you end 1957, the coup, Buzia will come in. And then you have what
were the protest movement before 45? I thought you and I were taught that the major protest was led by Nico Abramboni in 48, which led to the arrest of the Big Six after the disturbances, led to the shooting of the Sergeant Ajeti and Kalanatipo. So a bit concerned about the pre-45 protest movement.
So you see, there are a lot of historical accounts that took place, even say will even take place in a particular period. But what will happen, especially at this age, the framers of the history curriculum, looking at the content standards, examine this example, and these are just examples. So you see examples, and this curriculum is not prescriptive. This curriculum is just provide examples so that with the curriculum framework, anybody who wants to develop another curriculum, say a private school, you pick the curriculum framework and you develop your own curriculum.
But you say history is what? But history is also conflictual. History is fluid and changeable.
No, the
dimensions of history you stated are not exhaustive.
No.
History is not just chronology. History is also conflictual, it is human, history, it is fluid and changeable and manageable.
Can I make a point? History is chronological and periodical. the key features of, if you ask any historian, they will tell you.
No.
The second point
I disagree with that.
Can I make a point?
Can
I make a very important point?
Yeah.
It is also based on perspectives as well.
Exactly.
So I have it. So that's what I'm saying. That, but the key feature is that they are made within a certain period and they are made within a certain order. So as we go on into, because history is going to be learned from primary up to secondary school. So GHS, they're going to be an history curriculum. JHS 1, JHS 2, JHS 3, and then we go to senior secondary school. And so when you are talking about Gold Coast,
so they are concerned that for pre-45 movement, is JB Dankwa the only figure? Why is he the main figure there? Don't forget the context to this, right? You talk about context. There was an attempt to rename the University of Ghana after JB Dankwa. So there is a view, there's a view that there's an attempt, and I know you're not a politician necessarily, there's a view that the government is trying to rewrite the history of this country. Don't forget the Nkrumah birthday, Founders Day has been made Nkrumah's birthday, and there's now August 4th. So you need to understand this context behind this, interest in this issue.
Well, these are speculations. When we're developing the curriculum, we worked as technical people. In actual fact, we will make the list of the history curriculum developers available, so that you can check their background and you see where they are coming from. So we did not select people on the basis of political declaration. They were selected on the basis of their competencies as historians in our country. Professor Yayo from the University of Cape Coast and other his colleagues who did this work this evening have expressed worry that, look, the work that we've done, is that how we are being paid? I said, no, Prof. We will do a brief statement,
So I have the history panel members and reviewers. Professor Osei Kwatin, Department of History, UCC. Dr. Samuel Boedisian, Department of History, UCC. Professor Wilson Yayo, also UCC. Mrs. Anita Oforiwa Edubuahin, Department of History Education, UEW. Mr. Stephen Kwachi Appel, UEW. Mrs. Regina Efa Infantsvim Senior High School. Miss Abena Ansai J, Publisher. Alhaji Seidu Mahama, NACA Desk Officer. Expert Reviewer, Professor D.E.K. Amenume. Yeah. I've interviewed him myself. Deputy Department of History, UCC, retired. Curriculum Advisor, Dr. Samawuku. And Felicia Boachi Iyadom, NACA. So there's nobody from Legon. All of them are UCC. That's interesting. So the history department of UCC must be the best in the country.
Well,
there's no tech.
Yes, it's only talking about education. You're referring to education. So that's why.
No, you're talking about the content of history.
I understand, but you're developing a curriculum, education. So that I can't.
But you're not from the Department of Education. I'm from the Department of History.
Yes, I'm coming.
So the fact that someone is Department of History. I mean, what are you saying?
What the point I'm making is that it seems that in terms of curriculum development, UCC and Winneba appear to be at the forefront in developing curriculum. So that might have...
No, but there's history education at UEW. But the UCC people are Department of History. So these are historians. They are not educationists.
Yes, I'm saying
properly
that,
so-called.
Yes, I'm saying that the University of Cape Coast and the University of Winneba are noted for doing education. And so anybody who, even if you are a historian, they would have...
But Doc, knowing all the controversy over Ghana's history, would it not be better to make it a bit more broad-based in terms of the different, because this looks like a very, I can't argue with their competence, but they all seem to be from just two institutions. And Ghana is such a broad,
yes.
They are all from UCC and UEW.
Well, and then they are teachers as well.
But there are other subject areas where they are not only from those two universities.
Yeah, so that's
why is it that for history they are from only those two universities?
No, I think that you are being overly speculative.
No, I'm just asking you questions.
Yes, what I know and I can say is that the selection of people for history and for all subject panel was based on the fact that they have been involved somehow in curriculum review, and then also can be available to support us to deliver the curriculum on time.
We will take another break. We are trying to understand the rationale behind the new curriculum. There's a lot of comments coming through from you. This is the point of view. My guest, Dr. Ama, who is the incoming executive director of the NACA, and then, of course, Kofi Asare, who's the chairman of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. Stay with us.
The one thing that stands between you and your dream is that one step. The one step between the ordinary and stardom. One step to be a part of your favorite music reality show.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Voice Factory. Can you sing? Are you between the ages of 18 and 24? Do you dream of becoming the next big music star? Then this is for you.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go! Voice Factory 2019, starting this month of May, powered by City TV, with support from City FM. Will you take that bold step? Registration opens on Thursday, 25th April 2019. Visit citynewsroom.com for more information. Voice Factory, just discover.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag #BreakfastDaily.
It's actually a good thing and healthy to be okay in your own skin. Not because you don't have the options, but it's also healthy to be able to say, listen, I'm going to the movies by myself. I'm going to the restaurant by myself.
Join us for Breakfast Daily, only on City TV. Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10.
Welcome back to The Point of View. We're still trying to find out the rationale behind the new curriculum. Lots of you are sending comments. I'm going to read them shortly. But we'll talk about the school uniform as well. So here are a few Ghanaians commenting on the new school uniform. Yeah, we did a quick vox pop on that.
The uniform that has been changed for the GES students, I don't think it's a priority now, because when you go to the deprived areas, the children there, some of them write on their bellies, some of them write in sands and all. Well, I think that one has been rectified. But then there are others who are also deprived of certain things. And those should be the ones that should be addressed, and not school uniforms being changed. It shouldn't be a priority. Well, it is not a priority as it's now.
On the school uniform, we said basic education is now free. So are they going to pay for it? I understand that when your old uniform, you want to replace it, then you can go in for the new uniform. But we also understand that some areas, they were giving them school uniform free. So GES needs to come out clearly whether government is going to pay for the uniforms or the parents will have to pay for it, because we know basic education is free in Ghana.
To me, I don't see it as anything that will benefit us in future, because it will end up disturbing with the parents. The children are beginning already with something. Now that you are changing it, are they going to start all over? And especially those who are ready to preparing now for their exams, how are they going to cope with the new changes that you are bringing in? And if they are promising us that they want to help us, the parents, for reducing the burden, and then they are now asking us to buy new uniforms, are they telling us the truth or they are deceiving us?
So those were some couple of parents. Now, Dr. Am, I know you are not the one who ordered the new uniforms, neither are you the one who recommended it, but since you are with the education service, a lot of people feel it's not necessary. And the DG's explanation, it talks about the Ghana flag and the values and things like that. I mean, is there anything else you can tell us that we don't know why this is important at this time?
Well, the first point, this is very personal opinion. I am very much concerned the way we have treated junior secondary school. I feel that the 1987 reform, that added that resulted in the GHS, and then we had GHS being part of the primary school under the context, within the context of FQ. Really, has resulted in reducing the it has resulted in making junior secondary school more closer to primary school, as opposed to making junior secondary school part of the secondary school system. So my first point is that, and I've always advocated and articulated that we need to have a 6-year comprehensive secondary school system where the JHS or lower secondary school is part of the senior secondary school. Now, so within that context, I am happy that you have a school uniform that will provide, at least show a distinction between the primary school and the lower secondary school. In our normal secondary school system, you have a school uniform for Form 1s, you have school uniform Form 2s, Form 3, just to show that these are Form 1s, these are. So I am happy to see that distinction on just on that basis. And I think that it fits into the context of trying to move lower secondary school closer to upper secondary school than closer to the lower secondary.
The president said that basic education should terminate at the secondary level. So if you think about it, he actually wants everybody to have at least SHS education. Yes. So the distinction is not really necessary.
No, it is. Even though basic education is to terminate at secondary school, it does not mean that junior high school, should be closer or be aligned to more of a primary school. You need to reorganize the secondary school system, the lower and the upper secondary school, in terms of even the curriculum and in terms of the orientation, so that you can prepare the people to transit into the upper secondary school. That was the reason why when the introduction of the 4-year program, I have always been opposed to it, given the fact that I felt that if you add 1 year to it, you're going to give us a 7-year secondary school system, because I've always wanted to see the lower secondary school as part of the upper secondary
Did
school.
you guys agree to the uniform?
We were never involved in any discussions in relation to the uniforms. The uniforms in the reform areas, okay, the reform areas, nowhere did the uniform emerge in our discussion at the Ministerial Advisory Board or on any other technical platform. We were surprised to hear the announcement on radio last week.
Caught you by surprise.
And then we were surprised because we thought that, we've been talking about even capitation grants being a challenge, And so within the context of our current financial difficulties, we know teachers who have been teaching under the free senior high school, the 6,000 plus that are recruited have not been paid. We know capitation grant is an issue. Mm-hmm. We know the sector is facing serious financial challenges, you understand, especially for recurrent expenditure. And so, when you have such issues confronting your system, you least expect that we will prioritize, the first 5 or 10 issues to be addressed in the sector, and then include school uniform. But you see, there is some inconsistency here, some policy incoherence here. That is where we are struggling to appreciate. Now, Ghana is running a universal basic education policy, FQ, which is in the Constitution. We don't have a universal secondary school policy. Okay? We have a free senior high school policy, but it's not universal. Because not everybody who goes to Form 3, junior high school 3, goes to Form 1. If you get 9, the last BC, if you have 9 in either maths or English, you couldn't have gone to senior high school. We are aware of that, okay? So we don't have a universal senior high school policy, but we have a constitutional universal basic education policy. So if you have a system where the state provides free uniforms for people in secondary school, buys them house, JC and all that, and then uniforms, and then you ask parents at the basic school level, where about 500,000 children are not in school, you ask parents to buy uniforms.
It's wrong-headed.
Then the two policies, they're not coherent.
Let's end here. Good morning. Thank you. Bernard, I'm John Kabute, a teacher teacher.
Right.
The reduction in number of subjects is
When
laudable,
you said that.
but the problem still exists if teachers are made to teach all subjects instead of specifying in a particular subject. There's a lot more comments streaming on Facebook. We'll be happy for you to comment as the program continues and the discussion continues in your homes. My guests have been Kofi Asare, chairman of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, GENEC, and Dr. Prince Ama, who is the head of curriculum, or he's the incoming executive secretary of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. It's a very powerful post. Thank you for coming on the show. My name is Bernard Abele. Thank you for watching The Point of View. Stay with City TV and good night.
Point of View is brought to you in association with Stanbic Bank, moving forward.